The first target under the fourth goal is to ensure that all girls and boys complete free, equitable and quality primary and secondary education leading to relevant and effective learning outcomes by 2030. According to the Global Education Indicators 2019, the proportion of students in grade 2 or 3 achieving at least a minimum proficiency level in reading for both sexes in Malaysia is at 86%. Minimum proficiency level is the benchmark of basic knowledge in a domain, measured through learning assessments. Currently, there are no common standards validated by the international community or countries. The proportion of students in grade 2 or 3 achieving at least a minimum proficiency level in mathematics for both sexes in Malaysia is at 71%. The proportion of students at the end of primary education achieving at least a minimum proficiency level in reading for both sexes in Malaysia is at 88%. However, the proportion of students at the end of primary education achieving at least a minimum proficiency level in mathematics for both sexes in Malaysia is at only 47%. The proportion of students at the end of lower secondary education achieving at least a minimum proficiency level in reading for both sexes in Malaysia is at 73%, a little bit lower compared to 94% in 2011. The proportion of students at the end of lower secondary education achieving at least a minimum proficiency level in mathematics for both sexes is at 42%, the lowest percentage in the last 10 years.
The second target is to ensure that all girls and boys have access to quality early childhood development, care and primary education so that they are ready for primary education by 2013. According to the Global Education Indicators 2019, the participation rate in organized learning 1 year before the official primary entry age for the birth sex in Malaysia is constantly increasing from 86% in 2010 to 90% in the latest report. Participation in early childhood education and in the primary education are both included. The age range will vary by a country depending on the official age for entry into primary education. This enrollment data was reported by Ministry of Education or National Statistical Offices and population estimates produced by the UN Population Division.
The third target is to substantially increase the number of youth and adults who have relevant skills, including technical and vocational skills, for employment, decent jobs, and entrepreneurship by 2030. The indicator for this target was set according to the ability of learning about information and communications technology (ICT) skills. According to the Global Education Indicators 2019, the proportion of youth and adults who have copied or moved a file or folder in Malaysia is at 80%, a positive improvement compared to only 51% in 2015. The percentage represents the number of the population who declared that they can copy or move a file or a folder on a desktop computer, laptop computer, or tablet. However, the proportion of youth and adults who have connected and installed new devices in Malaysia is only at 69% compared to just 21% in 2015. This percentage represents the number of the population who have connected and installed new devices, for instance modem, camera or printer. The proportion of youth and adults who have created electronic presentations with presentation software in Malaysia is still at a worrying rate of 29%, slightly higher than 13% in 2015. The percentage represents the number of the population who have created electronic presentations with presentation software including text, images, sound, video, or charts.
The next target is to eliminate gender disparities in education and ensure equal access to all levels of education and vocational training for the vulnerable, including persons with disabilities, indigenous people, and children in vulnerable situations by 2030. While there is gender parity in education participation, global average must get between countries. Only 66% have achieved gender parity in primary education, 45% in lower secondary, and 25% in upper secondary. While the global lower secondary completion rate is 69%, only 12% of the poorest male and 8% of the poorest females complete.
The last target is to substantially increase the supply of qualified teachers, including through international cooperation for teacher training in developing countries, especially least developed countries and small island developing states by 2030. According to Global Education Indicators 2019, the percentage of trained teachers in pre-primary education for both sexes in Malaysia is at 91%. This number represents the percentage of teachers in pre-primary education who have received at least the minimum organized pedagogical teacher training, pre-service and in-service required for teaching at the pre-primary level. The administrative data is from schools and other providers of education or training and compiled by the UNESCO Institute for Statistics. The percentage of trained teachers in primary education for both sexes in Malaysia is constantly above 95% since 2010, and now it is at 99%. The number represents the percentage of teachers in primary education who have received at least the minimum organized pedagogical teacher training, pre-service and in-service required for teaching at the primary level.
In order to fulfill the objectives of the study, we have interviewed 3 officers from Yayasan Sarawak, Institut Pendidikan Guru Kampus Batu Lintang and Jabatan Pendidikan Negeri Sarawak. We interviewed the Principal Assistant Director Division of Scholarship from Yayasan Sarawak. Based on the interview, Yayasan Sarawak defines quality education as in line with its vision and mission. The vision is to be world-class foundation in developing quality human capital in Sarawak. The mission is to be committed in advancing the development of quality human capital in Sarawak through effective assistance and support. In the process of achieving quality education, Yayasan Sarawak contributes through providing scholarships, loans, and educational programs. Yayasan Sarawak provides scholarship to the less capable secondary school students in Sarawak. Yayasan Sarawak also provides school uniforms to help reduce the parents' burden. The main role of Yayasan Sarawak is to provide financial assistance to support and reduce the burden of students in Sarawak. The future plan by Yayasan Sarawak is the high-performing rural schools, HYPERS. It aims to narrow the performance gap between urban and rural schools. It also encourages motivation, co-curriculum activities, and leadership.
We also interviewed the Chief Department of Academic Excellence from Institut Pendidikan Guru Kampus Batu Lintang IPGKBL. Based on the interview, IPGKBL defines quality education as to produce qualified teachers for the betterment of education in Malaysia, and to produce competent and passionate educators through dynamic teacher development programs for world-class school education. In order to produce qualified teachers, IPGKBL conducted assessments for each course continuously throughout the semester based on coursework and written exams. About 99% students successfully graduated from these institutes. The teachers produced are competent enough at the international level. This is in accordance with IPGKPL motto, which is to produce competent and passionate educators through dynamic teacher development program for world-class school education. The future plan is the implementation of the Cooperation and Internationalization Program. IPGKBL cooperates with the Ministry of Education Malaysia in programs involving ministries, agencies, institutions, public and private universities, local and abroad.
We also interviewed the Head of School Administration Sector and the Head of Administration and Planning for PPD Sector from Jabatan Pendidikan Negeri Sarawak, JPNS. Based on the interview, JPNS defined quality education as in line with its vision and mission, which are quality education begets learned individuals, for a prosperous nation, and upholding a quality education system that develops individuals to their full potential and fulfill the aspiration of the nation. JPNS ensures that the student achieve at least a minimum proficiency level in reading and mathematics at the end of primary and at the end of lower secondary. Ensure that the student under 5 years of age are developing on track in health, learning and psychosocial well-being, and ensure the participation in organized learning 1 year before the official primary entry age. Ensure that the students are equipped with information and communication technology ICT skills, and ensure that there will be no gender disparities in education, and ensure equal access to all levels of education and vocational training for the vulnerable, including persons with disabilities, indigenous people, and children in vulnerable situations. So far, the enrollment rate is 97.2% for primary and 97% for secondary school for both boys and girls. JPNS try to reach the student in rural areas through the district education office. According to JPNS, our technical and vocational students are industry competitive. JPNS work hard to enable the industry to play a greater role across the value chain, from student recruitment through to curriculum design, delivery, and job placement, to ensure that the supply of graduates truly meets industry demand. In overcoming the stateless child problem, the government has managed to solve many cases through the Sarawak Special Committee on Citizenship. But this special program was terminated through it was proven effective in solving citizenship status of those stateless people in Sarawak. JPNS future plan has been always the same, which is to improve the education level in Sarawak so that the student will be able to compete locally and internationally.